Is there something in the way of you being able to confidently say, I am mentally strong? Maybe you're going through a divorce and the turmoil and the pain and the grief is just kind of on the surface, and it's really impeding your ability to say that you're getting through this and feeling stronger. Maybe it's something that should be positive, that you are now an empty nester and but you're worried about the choices that your adult children are making. You're having relationship problems with your husband of many years. What is going on in your life right now that is holding you back from really being able to find joy, happiness, purpose? What are those things in your life? If you know anything about me, you know that I've lost 3 children and my husband over the course of 20 years. So lots of grief and trauma that I can really confidently say, I am mentally strong. I am stronger because of the pain. And that's emotionally hard to say, but also very hard to say in confidence. My name is Dr. B. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, so I've been practicing psychiatry for 25 years. But as you can see, I've also lived some very difficult things. And I think we're all going through kind of pain and different, things in our life, maybe feeling overwhelmed, disenfranchised, disappointed, maybe in our decisions or maybe other people's decisions. We're hoping that this marriage of 30 years was just going to be the bliss in retirement. And now you feel disconnected. So many things can contribute to this internal conflict of what do I want? Who do I want to be? And can I confidently say I am mentally strong? So in the course of my 20 years of grief and trauma, starting with my first son, Johnny, that died in 2005, then my son got sick and had 10 years of medical trauma, and he passed away in 2016. Then my daughter suddenly died in her sleep, and then my husband succumbed to that same disorder after a couple years in hospice. And through that process, I created what I now call the Mentally Strong Method. And why is that important to you? It's important to you because it's not just about grief, because we all will experience grief. But it's also the injury, the disappointment, the things that are happening in our life. And can we be stronger because of it? You ever heard that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger? And you see these people that just pushing through and pushing through and pushing through. That actually just puts more weight and more weight and more weight on you. Now remember, I said, I do believe that I am stronger from the pain that I've experienced. But it is because I've learned to think through all of those things, organize them, including truly learning how to grieve, which we do not properly teach. And I have lots of videos on that. Understanding trauma, injury, disappointment, and how that impacts us. Really identifying spiritual conflict and reminding myself that I am not only a mental and emotional and physical being, but I am a spiritual being. And learning how to grow in all of these areas so that I can confidently say, I am mentally strong. And regardless of the pain that happens in my life, I will be able to overcome. I want you to be able to say those things. So I teach this thing called the Mentally Strong Method, and I want you to click the link in the description. And this is just one worksheet in the hundreds of pages of the Mentally Strong Method, but it breaks it down into 3 words. These 3 words I want you to think about every time you are feeling overwhelmed, every time that you feel emotional or mentally exhausted, or you're trying to think through your problems. Are you efficiently thinking? Can you organize those thoughts? And can you make decisions in line with what you want? Are you truly making those decisions? Or is whatever's going on in your life right now and in the past just putting more weights and more weights and more weights on you so that you are going through life feeling heavy and exhausted? So think about the think, organize, choose. I'm going to go into it a little bit. So when you think about what's going on in your life and your problems, what has happened to you in the past does impact the way that you think. So if I thought I was stupid at age 7, 8, 9, and 10, when I make a mistake now, I still think I'm stupid, right? Like, I do not want you to go into your past and like make that your identity and pull it all up. But if it's still impacting you, we have to learn to think through that. And I do it in a kind of an advanced skill called a thought map. But what I want you to think about for yourself right now, what are you thinking about? What's going on in your life right now that is hard for you? Maybe it's that divorce or that relationship problem. What are you saying in your head? What is the narrative? Maybe it's, if I would have done this, if he or she really loved me, it would have been different. If I didn't do this, or maybe I'm not good enough, or they're not good enough, right? What is some of that negative dialogue? If you keep repeating negative dialogue, that is not efficient thinking. And this is where the organizational piece comes in. When we organize our thoughts, we can put them into different categories. So behaviors and choices. Maybe you made some mistakes. Maybe you did choose someone in your life to be in a relationship with, to get married to, and those choices that you made over the years have accumulated to kind of a disconnection or a separation, right? And you can own those choices. But I also want you to separate maybe the negative thoughts that are in those choices, because you do something different for each. So if you have a behavior or a mistake that you did, you ignored red flags, or there was parts of the problems that you're having now that you're taking ownership for, those are choices. And you can change those choices whenever you're ready. But the negative dialogue, if you are speaking negatively about yourself, and also somewhat if you're speaking negatively about someone else, right? Like you're putting it on them and you're saying these negative things. So that's what you see. It's called the reticular activating system in our brain. And whatever you repeat is what you see more of. So that could be what you're repeating about yourself, or even what you're repeating about other people. If every morning I told you, wake up and say, Toyota Corollas are the most popular cars in the world, you will see more Toyota Corollas every day than you did if you didn't say that, right? That's your reticular activating system. So if you're making negative statements about someone else, that is what you are going to see more of. If you are saying negative things about yourself, that's what you are going to see more of. And so those negative dialogues is another technique and there's lots of evidence around positive psychology and thinking positive and manifestation and universal energy and like really beginning to heal this area of your life can impact your relationships and the other things, right? But it's not going to make you make different choices. It's not going to make your spouse make different choices, right? So that's why we categorize them into different categories, right? Negative talk, and there's 10 plus categories that we put things into. So just how can you organize what's going on in your brain? Because if you just think, and try to make a choice, think, try to make a choice, but you're not organizing, That's when you feel overwhelmed. So, the Mentally Strong Method, I would love for you to learn it. There's multiple ways to do that. If you downloaded the worksheet, you will get an email about some of our services and things like that. But continue watching and learning how to be mentally strong.